Hello everyone, this is Venkat. Welcome to Venkat's Tech Talk. In this presentation, I am going to show how we can deploy an Angular app from Azure Repo in Azure DevOps, and how we can set up CI/CD to deploy the code into Azure as an app service. Okay, this is the third approach of how we can publish an Angular app. In the first presentation, we looked at the GitHub Pages option, and second, Stack Blitz. This is the third option, to use cloud to deploy our code. Okay, so if you are more interested in to know about what is Azure DevOps, how it is different from VSTS, and what are all the offerings within the Azure DevOps, there is an additional other video which I have mentioned in the description. You can watch it to know more about the context and background of Azure DevOps. In this presentation, I am directly going to jump into Azure DevOps to show how we can do a CI/CD. Okay, let us get into the Azure DevOps page. Okay, so if you look at this page, this is the quick intro of Azure DevOps and what are all its offering. So it basically offers a Azure Pipeline. So we are going to work with this Azure Pipelines. Azure Pipelines is nothing but this is the terminology used for CI/CD related setup within the Azure DevOps. Okay, so dev.azure.com is the login. I have already logged in to my DevOps, Azure DevOps. Okay, so before we jump into setting up an Azure pipeline, a quick overview of how things are organized within the Azure DevOps. So if you look at the Azure DevOps, it has a hierarchy. So top hierarchy here is organization. So within a subscription, you can create a number of organizations. So organization is the top hierarchy, where you can define all the projects belong to that specific organization. So here for this demo, I have just this is an organization I'm going to use. So you can create a new organization by hitting this plus new organization. So organization is the top umbrella. Within that you have a project. This is the thing. So here I have two projects. So each project, if you look at this project, it has all the Azure DevOps offering that you can work with that specific project. So dashboard, repository, GitHub repository, and artifacts, and pipeline, artifacts, and test management. Or all five offerings for each project is listed below. You can directly click on any of these things and work on it. So what I have did already to reduce time is I have already set up the Git repo for my Angular project, which I have used in this same in the demonstration of my previous project. So this is the Angular experiment on Azure. So it is a standard Angular CLI project, and which is a working version. I know this is working. So I have pushed this everything into GitHub repository in Azure. So let me open this Angular experiment project. So once I click and open this project, so once I open this project, I will see board, repo, pipeline, test plans, and artifacts. So I'm going to repo. Repo is the repository, Git repository. And Azure DevOps not only provides a Git option, it also provides a TFS options, but I have chosen Git during setup. So I have two branches, master and development, and it's straightforward, nothing fancy. If you are familiar with Git, it is similar here. So just you will be able to create a new repo, and then you can clone it, and using Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio, you can work like a standard Git repository, like using a command line or interface or whatsoever. You can check in the code. I have already made the code base ready to just focus on deployment part without worrying about the setup of repo. So just to quickly show, I'm going to work on this repo to publish into Azure. Okay, so to work with CI/CD, we will be working with pipeline. Okay, right now my pipeline is empty. Okay, so a first prerequisite is I want to create an app service in Azure, because ultimately we want to publish into Azure as an app service. So any web application to publish in Azure, it will be in the app service. So I'm going to create a new app service for my Angular experiment project. So I have already logged into my subscription, and yeah, I can just go to the dashboard and choose app service, and hit new, add a new app service. So I'm going to add an app service. So I'm going to choose web app. I don't have any backend. This is a straightforward application without any backend. So hit create. So I want to give a name for this app service. So let me name it Angular experiment. Okay, this name is available. So my final endpoint will be Angular experiment.azurewebsites.net. I'm fine with that one. I want to go with a subscription, no change, and a resource group. Okay, fine. And for me, I already have an app service plan configured, so it is picking that existing one. In case if you are going to start fresh, it may prompt to create an app service plan. You can create an app service plan. So app service plan is nothing but it determines what is the cost you want to it is pay for this app service. It provides a lot of option, and this is where you'll be choosing your hardware, compute power, and those things. So I have chosen a least plan. There is a $12 plan which gives a compute hours for few 100 minutes per day. I think that is sufficient for this demo. I have chosen this one. If you want, you can choose any sort of plan. So this is what this app service plan about. So fine, I have filled in all the required details. This is the minimum detail I need. Just I need the app service plan and the app service name, and choose the subscription. And I'm going with OS Windows, and fine. So I'm creating this app service. Okay, so app service validation successful, and it is doing this deployment. It will take a minute. Let it create. Meanwhile, we can go and start working on this, building the CI pipeline. Okay, it's not going to take much time. It's going to take a minute, but instead of staring the screen, let us go to the other screen and start working on pipeline. So new pipeline. So under pipelines build, I'm hitting the new pipeline. So once you land on this page, I want to choose the visual designer instead of going with this thing. So hitting the visual designer, use the visual designer screen. Okay, so it provides all the options from where we can pull in our source code. So even we can get the code from GitHub or an external Git, or all these things. So I'm just going to go with the Azure Repo Git, because this is what I want to use it for this demo. So project is Angular experiment, and there is only one repo in this thing, so it already pre-picked that one, and it is asking for the branch from where I want to do the build. So perfect, I want exactly this thing. Hit continue. Okay, so now I have chosen the Git repository. Now the second step is I want to go and choose the template. So it provides a lot of pre-built template for this one. So you can even search for what kind of template you want for a Java project, or and all these things. For my case, I want to make it very simple. I'll start with my empty pipeline. So empty pipeline gives me a flexibility of adding my own steps, so that I don't need to worry about the internals of how things are happening in an existing template if somebody have created it. So this one gives me a full comfort of I can replicate exactly what I do in my local, because to publish in my local machine, I just follow simple steps. for any Angular application, if you are trying to build and run an application, you will follow a very straightforward steps. So first step, you will install an Angular CLI if it's not available, and second thing is you will build the project, and you will use Node. If Node is not installed, you will use Node, and you will install the CLI, and you will install the dependencies for the project, and then you will do an ng build, and then you will do an ng serve. So these are the straightforward steps that we do. So it helps me to follow the same step by choosing an empty template. So that's what I'm trying to do. So this is an empty template, and it automatically named it as an Angular experiment CI. So if I want, I can change it, but let me leave as it is. And yeah, so there are multiple options. I left with the default selection, hosted BS 2017. Okay, now getting the source is already done. Run on agent, that's fine, that's the default one. Now I'm going with steps. So tasks. So this is where DevOps is so powerful and so rich, because you see these are the different kind of tasks for each that everything any user or any developer want to do in terms of building the code. It may be an related to .NET or Java or any technology. You will find tasks, and this is kind of like now if you look at the Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio IDE, where these extensions are getting powerful, because uh, every single extension is targeted to provide some kind of feature. So that, like similarly, like these tasks are developed in the isolation for specific technology or specific requirement, and we can pull in the task into a CI/CD process, and we can use it. So this is the great power of Azure DevOps. And here for our case, I'm going to go with the logical order of what we do in the Angular application build. So thing is node, we need the node. So node tool installer. So this is what I want. Okay, add. So this takes care of node installation. So we can mention what version we want. I know I'm using 8. Version node 8 in my local development. I want to stick to it, so 8.x. okay, you can go for check for latest version, but I'm fine with specific version matching with my development, so I'm using 8.x. So first step is done. Okay, second step, I want to work with npm. I want to install my Angular CLI. So take the npm. Okay, so I can give the display name. So display name gives a meaningful name when we see the build definition. Install Angular CLI. This is the display name, and this gives the predefined npm commands: npm install, npm publish, npm custom. So I will go with the custom because I want to pass an additional argument of Angular CLI. So I'm going with the custom, and I need to choose the package folder where I need to run this command. Since the source folder is already under from repo, it shows all the existing folders. So I'm going to pick this Angular experiment because this is where I see the package.json. Usually we used to run all our npm commands exactly from this folder, so that this it uses these project specific JSON file. So I'm choosing that folder, and I'm giving the command. Here we can write the command excluding npm, because npm will be used provided by the runtime. Just we need to give the command arguments. So npm install at Angular CLI at latest. I'm using G, global option. So -G. So hit save. I'm just saving step by step. I'm leaving the default name and folder. I don't want to change it. Okay, installed Angular CLI is fine. Next step, I want to install all the project dependencies. Again, go with the npm, add. Okay, change the name, npm install project dependencies. Okay, working folder, Angular experiment. This time no custom, just npm install is going to be sufficient, so I'm just sticking with the standard option. Okay, save. Don't need to do at every step, just I'm doing so that in case if of browser crash or anything, I don't want to lose it, so I'm hitting save for every step. It's not required, no need to do like that. So another npm command. So now I have installed Angular CLI, installed project dependencies. Now I want to build the project. Okay, here let me take a quick stop and show the project, and we need to do some prerequisites to do this step and few other further upcoming steps. Okay, so this Angular CLI project that you create using Angular CLI command and whatever you create, everything is fine. Now three things that you need to do to make it this Angular application to publish on Azure. First thing, if you look at the package.json, you have this section where you can use npm command to build the project, because basically you can build the project by using a direct ng command, ng build, ng serve, or you can go with an npm command when you call npm run script, and then if you pass the argument of which option you want to use, then it will internally call the ng build and those kind of things. So for example, npm script start, if you give, it will do as ng serve. So I'm going to use that approach, because we can use ng command in the build step, but we may need to figure out a way to find out which folder we have this ng and set up the path and those things. But because npm is readily available, I want to go with the npm option. So for that, I want to build it with the production configuration. So I introduce this element, build -prod ng build $prod as an argument. So I want to so once I call run script build prod, then it will use this configuration to build it. So this is one prerequisite. Number two prerequisite is instead of saying it as a prerequisite, this is something just we need to make sure, note it and remember that to use in the build configuration. Check the output path. Sometimes this output path will be dist folder / project name project folder. So sometimes it will be dist. So if you have changed it, this output path, just make a note of it and make note where exactly this output is rendered, because we will be using this path in the CA's definition. In case if there is an error in this path, your build will be successful, your deployment will be successful, but you will not see anything on the portal. So it is important that you need to know like where it is getting published. So this is the second thing. And third change is, this is specific to Azure. So in Azure, when you hit the root URL, we want to make the Azure App Service to understand the default route and navigation. So for that we need a web.config file. So there is, if you look in the net for standard Angular applications web.config file for Azure, you will find it. So this is a standard template. So it just takes an URL rewrite in case if you are hitting an URL root URL where you want to land on the default page, and all those things goes into these things. And if you want to add a support for additional MIME type, for example, if you want to run a hit an URL in an Angular app which serves a JSON file, you may need to add a support for this one. So you can learn more about these things on the documentation, but just remember that we need to put in web.config, and you can find it in the online, or you can just make note of this thing. So these 3 points are the prerequisites that we need to know in before we setting up CI/CD. Okay, so yeah, web.config, angular.json and package.json. Okay, now let us continue. Come here. So I want to build the project, npm command, add the step. Okay, build the project. Okay, this time custom command, I need to choose the working folder, Angular experiment. Okay, command and argument what I want to do. So npm run script build prod. Okay, so build prod is the option. This is this thing. Run script is the standard npm command. So okay, and I need to choose the folder, build the project, and then that's it. So build the project step is done. So once after project is built, what next? We need to publish it to Azure. Okay, so before we publish into Azure, that just as I already mentioned, let us come and see. Now this deployment is succeeded. Means like this Angular experiment.azurewebsites.net should be ready now. Angular experiment Azure websites Angular experiment. Okay, so this indicates this app service has been deployed successfully, and it is online, it is available online. Our URL is working, but our Angular application is not yet deployed here. So this indicates that our site is ready. So once after our deployment is successful, we will be able to see the Angular application running at this endpoint. Okay, now that step have verified. Now let us continue with this thing. So one of the tasks required for publishing to app service is Azure App Service. Just type it, it will show. Azure App Service deploys the task. Okay, so as the description says, all these kind of applications can be deployed. I'm adding it. So I need to do couple of configuration. So here I need to pick up the Azure subscription where I want to publish. I already know it's in my Azure subscription 1, and app type is web app, and what is the app service name I want to publish. I want to publish under Angular experiment. This matches with what we have created here. Okay, Angular experiment. Okay, and then what is the folder's content that we want to publish. Okay, this is something which we know. It will be Angular experiment. Below that it will be in the dist folder. Dist folder is not displayed here because that is the folder created at the runtime during the build process. So it will not be there, but still it is more flexible, allowing us to directly type the folder name here. So Angular experiment / dist, and few more options. So additional deployment options. We are using publish using web deploy, and remove the additional files at the destination. That's it. So perfect. These are all the only steps required. So okay, saving it. Okay, perfect. Now I think everything whatever I need to set up for an publishing an Angular app to Azure is done. So getting the source from GitHub, using Node, installing CLI, building the project, installing the dependencies, building the project, publishing it. It matches with my real steps that I do locally. So everything is fine. So now it is time to queue the build. Okay, so I'm queuing the build. So the queuing and the deployment is going to take at least 5 to 6 minutes. Let us watch. So now build is queued. Let us go and open the build to see what's happening. So it shows interactively each step. Okay, so if you look at this, okay, so now all these steps are complete. So if you look at the right side, it gives the timeline. So especially installing the Angular CLI and building the project took some time in minutes. So now all of these steps are complete. So ultimately in 4 minutes this entire build is complete. Now it means our application is published online in the Azure. Okay, so let us go and validate it. Okay, so now I'm going to hit refresh. Yep, so perfectly our code is deployed and we are able to see the application working. So let me hit the links. Yep, it is working. So okay, so we are done with CI/CD. And one last thing. So with this change, with this setup, made we have created a build that can be triggered. That is like getting the source and building it and publishing to Azure. So now to enable CI continuous integration means, like, as soon as a new code is checked into master branch, we want to do the build, we want to trigger the build and get the code published. Okay, so I'm going to edit and make a small slight changes for that one. It's a very straightforward change, not thing. Okay, edit. Just we need to choose the trigger, how we want to trigger the build. If it is a scheduled one, for example, if we want to make it a build at every night or something, you can go for a scheduled operation, but instead I want to go with the enable continuous integration, CI. So from which branch I want to build? I want to build from the master branch. That's it. This one single change is sufficient. So as soon as we do a pull request from any other branch into master, as soon as the code is checked into master, this build will trigger and it will go through the deployment process. I'm not saying this is the ideal one. Basically in a real time we will go with the releases option, where it goes through each stage, because build is something just we want to build the code, but the release will take care of releasing into an pre-prod or UAT or an system integration environment. After some time we use the same build and take it to the UAT and promote the same build to a production. That is the actual real-time production pipeline, but this is just to introduce the taste of how we can do a quick deployment kind of thing. So this is, I'm not claiming this is the real production process, because in production definitely we'll go with the release based approach. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope this video helps. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment. uh, and also one other point I want to tell, in case of, because this is a happy path, I was able to deploy and instantly work something, but things can get wrong if you do any kind of mistakes in any of the steps in the configuration. But if it happens, how we can troubleshoot? So let me explain about that part. So basically, if any of the build step fails, then you will be able to identify that by looking at error logs of that specific step failure. But if all the steps are complete, and still if you are not able to hit this URL, for example, if you hit the URL, if it's nothing is rendered, that could be some issue in which location, in which folder this application deployed, means like whether the web.config is present in the deployed location, and those kind of things will be the reason. So what we can do is we can go ahead and check the app service to figure it out. So this is a key tip I want to show, how we can troubleshoot in app service deployment issues. Okay, so go to the app service, open the app service. So scroll down to console. So console gives a very powerful interactivity, where you can directly run your DOS commands to see how the folder looks like. Because basically what is expected is, you should expect directly under www root, you should see all the folders or files expected uh, to be there for running an Angular application. Basically, we know this, we need an index.html and all the pre-compiled files here. In case if there is any issue in the path, for example, sometimes accidentally under www root slash another subfolder, it may get published. If it happens, if you hit the URL, nothing will be available. So this is the a key step to troubleshoot. Just go to this folder and run your command to see if these things are there. For example, for some reason, if web.config is not there, you may get some unintended effect. For example, if you don't see some of the image files available, then that could be the reason. Maybe this asset folder is missing, or the image files within asset folder is missing. So all these kind of folder verification or file verification, you can go ahead and check it here. So yeah, cd assets, yeah, I'm able to see the folder. So this helps to troubleshoot. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a great day. See you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.